This card is absolutely amazing and I love it. I'm really looking forward to be playing with this as my companion for some of my cEDH decks. And I gotta say, the card design of this card is absolutely genius. Wizard of the Coast truly did it on this one, even though I actually think they did it by mistake. I don't think they sat down and said, let's do something really good for the cEDH format. I think they are viewing that this is gonna be a great card for Standard, Modern and other formats. It just happened to be really good for cEDH by accident. So, welcome to a card review for Jegantha, the Wellspring. This is the Gruul Companion. For a 5 mana cost, you get a 5/5 elemental elk with the companion deck demand. No card in your starting deck has more than one of the same mana symbol in its mana cost. Before we continue with the rest of the card's text, let's actually explain what this means. So, for example, Mana Drain has 2 of the same identical mana symbols in its mana cost. Therefore, Mana Drain can't be included if you want to have this thing as your companion. However, Negate has 1 blue mana symbol in its mana cost and 1 generic, so it has 2 different mana symbols. Therefore Negate is legal inside your deck if you want to have this as your companion. A multicolored card like Abrupt Decay got 2 different mana symbols in its mana cost, 1 green and 1 black, 2 different, they are not the same, so you can have Abrupt Decay inside your starting deck. However, the multicolored card Shadow of Doubt got 2 identical mana symbols. Both are hybrid Dimir, blue-black and then another blue-black. Those are the same mana symbols, so you can't have Shadow of Doubt inside your starting deck. Let's continue with the rest of the card's text, because it's not just a 5/5, it actually has an ability, and it's this ability where I actually think that the design of this card is truly genius. So, you can tap it to add Vuberg to your mana pool. However, this mana can't be spent to pay generic mana cost. Let's say you want to cast an Aven Mind Sensor. Now you can tap this Elemental Elk to add Vuberg to your mana pool, but you can only use the white mana in the Aven Mind Sensor's white mana cost. Well, that was very strange to say. You can't use any of the other colored mana from the Elemental Elk, your companion, to pay for the 2 generic on the Aven Mind Sensor. There is a partner combination that goes by the name of Thrasius and Vile Smasher, who build a lot of different variations of decks, Curiosity Control, Curiosity Storm, etc, etc. And they can't even include this elk to begin with, because the elk has color identity of white, which means it demands all 5 color identities to begin with. But for example, if you wanted to activate Thrasius' ability using this companion, you wouldn't be able to do so, because you can't pay generic mana cost from the mana from this companion. That is really important, and I love that part about it. The Jegantha has a lot of similarities with Bloom Tender and Faeburrow Elder. These 3 creatures are tapping for potential Vuberg mana, and that is a really strong ability. And Thrasius really likes the Faeburrow Elder and Bloom Tender. Those 2 cards are really strong for the Thrasius deck. But Thrasius can't play around with this thing, and I'm really happy about that. Thrasius is a monster, and he doesn't need more upgrades. Trust me on that. But now, you're going to say the other 5 mana cost monster commander, Kenrith. However, Kenrith can't actually utilize this elk either. Sure, he could actually include it inside his deck, but if you tap this for its Vuberg mana, you can't do that much with your Kenrith. Okay, you can basically activate all of his 5 abilities, but you don't have that much generic mana to begin with. You can't pay generic mana cost from the elk's ability. This is genius. This is not upgrading the Kenrith deck. This is probably a deck you could include in Kenrith, but I don't think it's gonna be that good inside the Kenrith deck. I actually think Kenrith is going to perform better without this thing. Or well, we will see. I mean, there could be someone who's able to put together something of a Kenrith deck that is utilizing this thing, but remember, if you actually want to draw a card with Kenrith, this elk is only going to produce 1 blue mana for you, and then you're going to have 1 green mana to your +1/+1 ability, but you have to pay generic mana for that as well, and you don't have that much generic mana. This is not really going to help Kenrith activate his abilities that much. So the amount of commanders that are actually allowed to have this as their companion and might even want to have this as their companion are really few. First off, they have to be 5 color identity commanders. Those aren't that many. Second, they have to be able to perform some form of deck that aren't playing cards like Mana Drain with several of the same mana symbol in the mana cost. They have to perform some form of a good deck without those. Third, they have to have some form of ability or mana sink or a deck that is really good at consuming colored mana, a deck that is really demanding color mana. Let's actually begin with a casual commander that is definitely getting an upgrade from this elk. Oh yeah, by the way, this elk is actually even an elemental. Here we have Horde of Notions. The mana cost of Horde of Notions is Verberg, so tapping this elk instantly costs this elemental thing. Vigilance, Trample, Haste, 5/5, and it has an activated ability demanding all 5 mana costs, so tapping the elk instantly pay for the complete mana cost the Horde of Notion is demanding. You may play target elemental card from your graveyard without paying its mana cost. So actually, even if this companion would die, you could reanimate it with the Horde of Notions. And I just love the fact that casual commanders are getting better and seeing upgrades, potentially reaching eventually a little bit closer towards cEDH power level or somewhere around semi-competitive power level. And it could be cool to actually try out to see if this little deck would start to perform something that is decent and good. Let's just re-showcase the genius of this elemental card. It is upgrading a casual deck without upgrading the Kenrith deck. Thank you, Wizards! But there are actually 3 competitive commanders that could utilize this Gruul companion, and those are Gollus, Tireless Pilgrim. His activated ability are demanding the Verberg mana and 2 generic, but you could probably get the 2 generic from somewhere. Now you can't cast your commander Gollus with the elemental elk, but you could activate his ability, and that is helping Gollus in some form way. I'm gonna showcase a little bit more about Gollus soon. Let's move forward. Cisse, tapping the elk, is activating Cisse completely, and we are going to exploit this. I think Cisse is the big winner here, but let's move forward. We're gonna talk a lot about Cisse, by the way. First, we need to just complete and talk a little bit about Nigella. Nigella has an activated ability that is letting you untap all your attacking creatures and take an extra combat step, and this elemental elk could help out on that. Now, before we go and talk more about Gollus and Cisse, I also want to finish and say I don't think that the elk is going to see play together with Nigella the Blade Blossom for a very simple reason. Here we have Druid's Repository and Nature's Will, and we can instantly see the problem here. Both of these 2 cards have 2 identical mana symbols in their mana cost, and that means that if you want to have your Jegantha as your companion, you aren't allowed to have these 2 cards inside your deck, and these 2 cards are somewhat of the best extra combat steps for Nigella the Blade Blossom. And I actually think that the Nigella the Blade Blossom tempo deck, infinite combat steps, would become weaker cutting these 2 cards for a card like Jegantha. Let's talk Gollus and how he could utilize this amazing companion. There is a card that goes by the name of Jeskai Ascendancy. It has white, red and blue in its mana cost, so the Jegantha could actually cast this thing completely on its own. But that's not what we're really going to do with it. We are going to tap Jegantha and let's go with 2 other mana dorks. You're probably going to have 2 mana dorks in your play. That's not a difficult achievement to acquire. Then you're going to activate your Gollus commander, and you're going to flip the top 3 cards of your library. You're going to cast all your non-creature spell, and for each non-creature spell that you cast, you're going to get an untap trigger on all of your creatures. That means you're going to untap your companion Jegantha and your other mana dorks, and you can keep on rock and rolling like this to storm off and cast potentially your entire deck. You can do the exact same thing with Intruder Alarm. So you activate Gollus with your Jegantha and your mana dorks, you flip into a bunch of creatures, you cast all of your creatures. For every creature that comes into play, you will untap all of your creatures to repeat and continue until you've casted in your entire deck and have all your creatures in play. This is going to be a very simple, quite powerful, but also extremely consistent game plan. Your companion is hanging out in your companion zone. You have your Golos in your command zone. There's a lot of zones right now. And all that you really need is one mana dork or two mana dorks that are able to tap for the 2 generic mana for Golos, and then you just need to tutor and find the Jeskai Ascendancy or the Intruder Alarm, whichever that you're going for, and then you have the win in somewhat. You could fizzle, but it's gonna be very consistent. But honestly, this is straight up a bloom tender in the command zone for Golos, and this is going to help out activating Golos in general. So even if you're not building a Golos deck that is trying to do the Jeskai Ascendancy Stormwind, if you're just sitting there and you have your Golos and you like activating Golos as much as you can, you suddenly have a bloom tender in your command zone that is just upgrading your deck. All that you really need is to make sure that you're fulfilling the criteria and not having cards with mana cost with the identical mana symbols in their casting cost. Alright, enough with everything that isn't Cisse, it's time to talk Cisse! The cards Cisse truly loves are really low CMC cost legendaries with a lot of different mana symbols on them, like for example Anaffensa the Foremost, green, white and black. Jegantha can tap and cast this thing, but also Anaffensa isn't hurting the deck construction demand for this companion. Perfect. Also, I don't actually play Mana Drain inside my Cisse deck because the Mana Drain generates a lot of generic mana that Cisse can't actually utilize. Mana Drain is making a lot of sense for Kenrith and Thrasius because they can utilize the generic colorless mana. Cisse can't, so I don't play Mana Drain inside that deck. Let's begin with talking about my Cisse Super Friends deck. It's a deck and combo that is utilizing a bunch of one-card combos to assemble a complete Planeswalker chain that is creating an infinite combo that is winning the game. It's a very consistent and decently fast combo deck. However, if you want to have Jegantha the Wellspring as your companion, you can't go for the Cisse Super Friends combo. Let me show you why, it's really simple. Here we have the complete 3-card combo that wins the game. Amenatu the Fate Shifter, Nicobolas the Dragon God, and Oath of Teferi. And we can instantly see the big problem here. Nicobolas the Dragon God has 3 identical mana symbols in its mana cost, 3 black mana. That means that if you want to include Nicobolas the Dragon God inside your deck, which you have to, there's no replacement for him to complete this combo, then you can't have the Gruul Companion. Trust me, there isn't any replacement for Nicobolas the Dragon God, I have looked. However, the moment they are printing an identical Amenatu the Fate Shifter, that is another Amenatu the Fate Shifter, with different name, potentially the same mana cost, doesn't matter, just the same ability, -1, exile another permanent you own, then return it to the battlefield under your control. That ability is key to make it functional. When they print anything that is doing that, then you can go back to this combo again. Let me show you how far this combo is currently capable of going. So, the game begins, you ramp a bunch of mana dorks, a bunch of mana rocks, a bunch of lands, and you slam dunk your Jengantha the Wellspring into play ASAP. Somewhere around turn 3, that's amazing. You pass turn, you hope it survives, and if it does, you're gonna win. Well, you're not gonna win, but you could win if Nicobolas the Dragon God was in your deck. Now you're gonna cast your Cisse after you've cast your Jegantha. Jegantha is no longer suffering from summoning sickness. You activate the Jegantha. Jegantha is legendary, guys! With 2 colors on it, so Cisse is currently a 4/4. The first thing that you're gonna tutor and find is the Reef, Imperial Tacticianer. So, ETB effect, you will untap Jegantha, then you can tap it again to do the new activation. However, you've also gained a few more colors. You've gained white and blue, so Cisse is currently a 6/6. Now you're going to find Amenatu the Fate Shifter, and you can flicker the so-called Darevi Imperial Tacticianer. You've also gained the color identity of black, so Cisse is now a 7/7. And we didn't have any legendary permanents in play except for our companion to begin with. So this is amazing. We're spurring into explosion immediately. However, this is where it's going to stop because we can't find Nicobolas the Dragon God because it's not inside our deck. We are waiting for a new card to replace Nicobolas the Dragon God, then we can go back to this combo with this companion in the companion zone. However, there's a lot of different combos Cisse can actually go for. For example, you could find Darevi on the first activation, getting an untap effect on your Jegantha. This is amazing, guys. And then activate it instantly again and find Nigella the Blade Blossom. And then suddenly we have the Nigella and Darevi combo assembled. And Darevi was here helping you assembling it. Did I mention that this is possible without tutoring for any other cards whatsoever, because Jegantha is in your companion zone, and Cisse is in your command zone. There are so many zones these days. In any case, it's really consistent. When I've been sitting and comparing power level between the TNT, Frasers and Tymna versus Cisse, what it often comes down to is that what is giving the TNT an edge is that they are partners. It looks like this. They cast Frasius. It's being interacted with in some form way, a counterspell or kill or spot removal. Then they cast Tymna for 3 mana. It is also being interacted with in some form of way, spot removal or counterspell. Then they cast Frasius again for 4 mana. This is extremely durable. You could almost say that partner commanders just never give up. And suddenly, Cisse has gotten a partner. Okay, it's not really a partner, it doesn't have a commander tax, you can't recast it, it's not the same durability, but this is something, this is a card that is existing outside the game that you have access to, that is giving Cisse more durability and continuous fighting power. So once again, I'm really looking forward to have this card in the palm of my hand. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the video. If you like what I do and you wanna support me, feel free to share my videos or even checking out my Patreon page. Also, purchasing cards from the TCG Players website using the affiliate link in the description below of the video will also help the channel grow. So a big thank you to all of you.